In the era of warehouses, we had an ever-expanding clearance section. Because of this, the company hired a delivery driver to be solely responsible for delivering the clearance items purchased by customers. This delivery driver, let's call him John, was incredible. He was a veteran of the industry, had 2 trucks, a smaller one and a larger one, did most of the heavy lifting, and always took time to chat with me while I helped him load his deliveries. He would bring me a beer on extremely hot days and knew I was giving it my all. He had worked for several luxury furniture stores, but when the recession hit and companies went bankrupt or cut costs, he found himself struggling to find work. The company I worked for had a problem with delivery drivers because the company was cheap and didn't pay the industry standard rates charged by most drivers. John was happy to make some concessions for cash deliveries, and naturally, management took advantage of this. After some issues in the war room, I asked John if I could get some shifts working for him as his delivery helper. John immediately said yes, as he also had problems with lazy employees. I instantly fell in love with the job. We would start at 4 a.m. to receive deliveries for the 6 a.m. shift, and if we scheduled correctly, we could finish between 2 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. I loved the physicality of it, loved being on the road, and loved exchanging stories with John. He talked about his wife and kids, and I teased him about his cheesy scorpion tattoo. The problem started when John picked up his delivery schedule at the store and saw the delivery prices quoted to the customer by the manager. To give you an idea, the store charged $95 for a local delivery. This was for a full day of deliveries, approximately 20 to 30 deliveries. John would charge a bit more because he was doing maybe 5 to 8 deliveries, and they would be finished instead of all being in a specific area. John would walk in and talk to the manager and ask why a customer was paying only $50 for a 3-seater sofa bed, going up 6 flights of stairs, when it would normally be a delivery fee of $110 and $100 for each flight of stairs beyond the first level. The manager would just shrug and say she lowered the delivery fee to close the sale. We would receive other deliveries where we had to carry a 10-piece sectional sofa up 7 flights of stairs because the customer wouldn't reserve an elevator or, in some cases, the merchandise wouldn't fit in the elevator. We would place the sofa inside, unpack it, connect the sections, and take away the trash, only for the customer to hand John $30 in cash. It was soul-crushing. I remember asking the customer to sign the paperwork when John said he would meet me at the truck. I grabbed the last bits of trash, walked down the stairs, and jumped into the passenger seat. John was trying not to look at me. He was crying. I asked if he was okay, and he kind of broke down a bit and confided in me. He was struggling with the bills. The company I worked for was his only decent-paying job. He was being scammed by the manager and might have to sell his trucks to pay his bills. My heart went out to this guy. He was quickly becoming a friend and really loved his job. I started forming a plan based on my inside knowledge of the manager, the area manager, the general manager, and the company in general. I took John to a small bar and bought us a few drinks. We sat in a booth, and I started laying out my plan for revenge. I asked John why he didn't give the manager a price list and charge more for his deliveries. John said that if he did that, the manager told him they would drop him as a driver and find someone cheaper. I laughed and said, "Call her now and quit." I explained that we had seen the delivery sheet for tomorrow. We had a huge run, 10 deliveries, and we already knew the manager had quoted ridiculously cheap prices, like $20 per delivery. John was unsure. I said, "Look, any other contract driver would charge at least $200 per delivery. There's no way another driver would touch this company." John picked up the phone, called the manager, put her on speakerphone, and quit right then and there. The manager, as expected, talked a big game, saying they would be better off without John and that he had just lost his biggest contract. John hung up, looking sick and panicked. I assured him that everything would be fine. I checked my watch. The store closed at 5 p.m., and it was currently 1 p.m. I promised John that by 4 p.m., he would get a call from the manager. In the meantime, we started creating a new list of demands. If they rehired John, they would do the following: charge a preset price given to them by John, pay for John's helper and gas. For any difficult deliveries, balcony lifts, fire escape deliveries, they would charge an additional fee. If they wanted to fire John, they would have to give him proper notice. Sure enough, at 4:30 p.m., John's phone rang. "Would you look at that?" It was the manager. John answered and put the phone on speaker. The manager, in a much more polite tone, said that if John did the delivery tomorrow, she would offer him a $50 gift card for the store. I hung up the call. John looked at me incredulously. I told him that when she called back, he should lay out his demands, and that would be it. 5 minutes later, his phone rang again. It was the manager. John answered and put her on speakerphone. The manager started her pitch, but John interrupted her. John began listing the problems he was having with the company. At first, he was nervous, but then the months of being screwed over started to show, and he laid down the law like a champion. The manager laughed at John's demand, and I encouraged John to convey the next piece of information to the manager. John says, "You know as well as I do that no other contracted company/driver would get out of bed for less than $250 per delivery. So what you're proposing? Either you sign my demands or good luck tomorrow." The manager responds, "All right, make the delivery tomorrow and then we can."
John interrupts, "No,
"I'm coming over there now. You're going to sign everything. Then we'll load the truck tonight and finish the delivery tomorrow." He hangs up. We head to the store, and the manager looks upset. She continues to complain that John is putting her in a tough spot and that he's extorting her. I can't help but emphasize that I'm sure John's kids would like to eat tomorrow. John slaps the new contract he wrote by hand on the truck and says, "Sign." The manager signs, and John backs his truck into the warehouse. As usual, we notice their sofas, sofa beds, glass coffee tables, the heaviest items this company sells. The manager comes out to the warehouse and smiles as we struggle to load the extremely heavy goods onto the truck. Once we finish, the manager has some sarcastic parting words. Manager says, "John, with this new contract, just to be clear, you have to fulfill the delivery regardless, right?" I reply, "No matter what happens, right?" The manager adds, "Even if the customer isn't home, I expect you to make sure the merchandise is there. I don't want any merchandise coming back to the warehouse." John confirms, "You got it." The next day was a glorious delivery day. 80% of the customers' goods didn't fit because the manager didn't explain to the customers that they had to measure the door frames. We had customers shouting at us, abusing us, saying it was unfair they had to pay more than $20 and how dare we charge them more. We just laughed and followed the manager's directive, leaving all the furniture at the property, some in the hallways, others in the middle of doorways. Some we simply left at the front door because some customers refused to accept the delivery because they didn't want to pay us any money. For the friendly ones who had cash in hand and were happy to pay us for our obvious efforts, we made an extra effort to deliver the goods and ensure they had the best delivery experience possible. After I quit my job at the warehouse and landed some acting gigs, I finally got a lead role in a prominent series. Once on set, I managed to talk to one of the producers about John, and John landed a job picking up sets from the studio warehouse and transferring them to the set. He would then work with the night crew to set up the scenes and prepare them for the next day's shoot. I see him in the studio between setups and most nights when I finish. He's making good money, comfortably supporting his family, and putting his kids through school, and he still enjoys a cold beer at the end of the day.